This video, I'm going to show you some presentation skills. So I'm seeing in Folios work a little bit like this. The work has been done, so the model's been made, but we're not presenting our technical drawings or our renderings very well. This is the same model. You can see it's been rendered out with a shadow and materials, and I've screen clipped this into nice clear images that actually communicate what our design's about. The underneath side, you can see how there is how the legs fitted, and here you can see through the model, like the kind of invisible view which shows all the joinery inside the model. You can see the technical drawings communicate all the measurements we need to make this model, and the exploded view shows the parts view. I've got a few missing here, but we'll go through this one together. You can see that communicates much better than initially what's put in the folio. So I've opened my project in Fusion, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to allocate my materials. The natural material that Fusion allocates is steel, so I'm going to highlight everything using Shift and go right-click Material Properties, Physical Materials, and I'm going to drag my pine over onto the other components. So I'll just show you that again. We highlight everything we need. If you don't have timber up here, scroll right down to wood and then keep scrolling down to pine, and then click and drag that across to the work. Click OK or close to that, and anything that's metal or steel in here, we can click on the component here and right click, go to appearance, because we might want this to look like a paint finish. So we'll go to paint, glossy, black, and just drag that across to the steel components that you want. I've got draw runners in here. We're not going to worry about that at the moment. I didn't model this. I got it from a library, but I've just allocated it as timber, but let's not worry about that. The next thing we're going to look at is this display setting down in the bottom. If I go into camera and then change it from orthographic to perspective, you can see that it's a more natural perspective look. That is much better to communicate your style of project. The other thing you can change is in visual styles. You can have a look at this shaded with hidden edges. You can see that's like an invisible see-through kind of look. That's quite nice at communicating the form as well. If you've got any of these like joint markers, that blue one, you can right click on it and go hide, or down here you find which is highlighted, right click and show or hide to remove those markers. On a Windows machine, I click Windows Shift and S, and then use my screen clipping tool to screen clip that out. Try and get rid of all this, just have a white background, so zoom to a point where you'll just have a white background. That will look really neat on your project. So Control or Command V, that puts your project in. Like I said, get rid of these little icons as well, and make a feature of this, because that is all your hard work that you want someone to assess now. So have it showing the best you possibly can. I've modelled up a drawer for mine too. Get a few different angles, make sure that it's like maybe 4 or 5 of these. I don't really like that form without the outside line, but in that visual styles, this one here and this one here, just with the visible edges, that looks really nice. Let's move now to technical drawings. We're going to go up here and go New File and New Drawing from Design. This normally is a little bit laggy, so be patient with your computer. Make sure you've saved your work. Give it a good time just to even do it on a reset when you first open the software. Mine was pretty quick today. First thing we want to do is present a front view of your cabinet. So if it doesn't come up with the front here, you might need to choose left or right to see your front. It doesn't really matter what it says as long as the project is looking at you. I'm going to change mine to 1 to 10 because we want to fill like kind of that quarter of the page there. So we're going to click there and click OK. Now I'm going to project my views with this button up here. So click the front view, project upwards. That should be your top view. So make sure it's not looking at the bottom. This is the side view, and up here is the 3D view. So that's where we want it to look. I'm going to hide my drawer by unticking this selection here. I want to make my technical drawing like that. And double click this one and make it shaded. And now we have to present our dimensions on this. Up the top here, we're going to go to the dimensions, and we're going to go from left to right and up here. And just like we're making a sketch, but this time we're defining every measurement we need to make this project. So take your time and think about, like, what do I need to know about this model to make it in the workshop. Try and stack the larger dimensions on the outside and then any smaller dimensions inside of that. Things like this here, we can do a little offset of how far away that is, but I'll be dragging that down kind of to here, and then potentially putting this one sitting on here. You can see how that overlaps. I'm going to delete that and try the bottom here for that metalwork. So we could break this down into several different parts, but you can see what I'm doing here. We can get a lot of measurements in that you could take this into the workshop and make it from. So continue on and get that dimensioned up. So that's looking pretty good. I can read most of the dimensions. There's a few like that will double up. So this one here, 377, you don't need that on this way as well. It's the same dimension. So we've defined that. There's this tool here which is called the detailed view. If you have a detail a little bit like this that you could make larger, we can bring it across to this side and create a bigger scale for this one. So let's say 1 to 5, and then that will give us more room to put some dimensions for this. We can move the tag around if that's in the way, and now I can delete this and put it on here as a nice clear dimension. We can say the offset here. So try not to double up our dimensions. We've got that little bracket there, and that looks about it. We could put this measurement on here. I'm going to move this label around so it makes sense. It's a little bit messy. I'd like to move this one to that side, maybe the 30 down, and try and stack this one up here a little bit more. Just try and make it look as neat as possible. Okay, I'm happy with that. So that's got most of my dimensions on. Just neaten it up. Next thing I want to show you is, you can see the way I'm zoomed now. You can't really see the graphics really well. So if I zoom into a certain point, all this detail in the title block shows. You want to make sure when you screenshot this that nothing's overlapping there. So just do a little tidy up. Make sure you can see all the details. If your graphics in your computer is not working too well, try and export it as a PDF, and then you'll get a much clearer view to screenshot into your final projects. This is looking pretty good to me, so I'm going to go Windows Shift S. I'm going to try and get this whole page. Oops. And then we can paste it into the folio. So you can see it's nice clear text. For some reason this has gone a bit highlighted and bold, so I might want to try that again. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the exploded view. This is the final one I'll show you. So looking a little bit like this with the parts view and the parts table. We have to go back to the model. So this is my model. I'm going to go to the home view, so the little house here, and we're going to go into the animation view. I've already given this a go, so I'm going to go to another new storyboard down in the bottom corner. When you first open it, yours should look like this too. Go to the home view and then zoom out a little bit. To make this simple, I'm going to hide the drawer, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to move my timeline into the timeline a little bit, doesn't matter where. I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to try and pull all my components apart. So let's look for the top to start with. I don't know why the top's called bottom in this. It's called a bottom mirror, so it just depends how we made this. So that's going to come up like this, and then I'm going to expand, and I'm going to look at the edging now. So that one's going to go out. This edging is going to come out this way, and it's just about stepping everything out so it's just got a bit of clear space around it. So that one's going to come out that way. This one will come this way. I'm going to move the drawer down. Sorry, not the drawer, the base down. This one here can come up a little bit. We want to see that kind of space around everything. We can go to the next level and pull this edging out just a tiny little bit, and this one a little bit. We know this connects to this side, so this is the bottom, so that comes out. If you can try and be fairly logical with the way you split all these pieces apart, go out a little bit further than what you think you need to. I'll see where this drawer sits now, so I'm going to get that full drawer and move it out, and then I'll move these individual components of the drawer. So it's not difficult, it just takes a little bit of time. Now that's not completely apart, but let's just call it that for now. And we'll click save up here and just give it a little bit of time to think about that before we do the next process. Alright, now we are going to go to new drawing from animation. We'll click OK to this. Remember, this is where your computer could stall a little bit. Okay, mine's coming at a fairly good scale. I'd like this drawer kind of part to be a bit further out though, so I've placed that in that position, and we can always go back to the cabinet. This is where it sometimes takes a little while to think about it. We'll select the full drawer and bring that out. I'd spend a bit more time separating this if I wasn't in such a hurry to get this video sorted, but just do your best to clearly define each component and get it to look like it's just kind of exploded apart. Think about that kind of like a Lego kit instruction. You want to have that kind of look that it would all snap back in together. I'm going to save that work again, give it a minute to think about it. We'll come back to the file that we just made. It gives me a warning that our model's been updated, and then I'm going to click this little update button up the top, and it will update to how you've placed your work. Once we've got that in, most of the work's done. We're going to go to table. I'm going to go down and select all levels from the structure. You can see that has expanded that table out, and there is a lot of different components here and the materials that we've allocated to it. Now your job is to click once on there and then bring it around so we've got no crossovers of all these components. So it takes a little while to organize, but trust me, it will read much better if we can try and get these in some kind of order that kind of looks like it doesn't cross over. So I'll pause this video, I'll get this one organized, and I'll show you what it looks like in a sec. Okay, I've arranged that fairly well. You can see they're kind of arranged in lines. Where possible, I've got rid of the overlap. There's a couple in here which was a bit tricky, so as long as you're minimizing that. All the names here of all your components, they're related back to this model here. So if you go right back to your design phase, you can change these model names and the sub names inside of here. That's what you have to do before you save that work and then save and update this model. That would update these names. So if you're having trouble with that, last piece of advice here, just make sure that zoom is kind of enough so you're not getting the pixelation in here. Zoom it nicely, arrange your work, do your screenshots so you're maximizing what your project looks like. And I missed again, here we go. And that will look really great when you go back to your Word document and paste it in. But just remember, the whole point of this video is you've done all the work for the model, so display it really nicely in your folio. I wouldn't be opposed to actually making these full page too. So you know, just put it like that, and then make a page, fill your page out, because then when whoever's marking this will look through your folio and it will look just like, you know, that's a solid piece of work there, and much of your planning grade is going to come off of this. Hopefully that's been helpful in the presentation of your folios.